We have Hearts of Iron, the board game, which is a historical war game, and I know I just said that I don't normally cover those in as much detail, but I am going to be breaking my rule with this one. First of all, because this one is coming from Steamforged Games, which creates all sorts of different board games and is more known for converting video games into board games, and that is what they're doing here. It just so happens that this video game does have a World War II theme, and also this one doesn't play completely like those traditional war games, and I think this one will cater to more people just within the board game community in general. The players are going to be playing as different powers during World War II, and at the start of the game you're going to be choosing your ideology as well as your goals for the war, and this is going to allow players to choose those that align with history or to choose something different altogether, going down the path of alternative history. Your decisions here are going to impact how you score at the end of the game, as well as which cards are going to get added to your base deck. This is a game that uses a lot of different trackers and a lot of different cards that are going to be coming into play during the different phases of the round, but at the beginning of a round, players are going to start by choosing an engine card to put into play. This is going to allow you to invest in one of those trackers and move you up that tracker, while also granting you with the associated resources and even granting you with a power that you can use later in the round. After all the players have done this, each player can then choose to reduce their manpower track in order to build factories in regions they control. And I will come back to these factories in a second here. Each player is then going to be choosing a research card to put into play unless they already have one in play, and if that's the case, they'll be able to put a research token onto that card, indicating that they have made progress on it. Each of these cards can grant you with different ongoing and instant effects, but you do need to complete the research on it in order to get that benefit. After you've done that, you're then going to be putting a focus card into play. These focus cards work very similar to those research cards, where they will grant you with some sort of special ability or effect, but in order to fulfill these ones, they're going to have an objective on them, and once you've completed the objective, it's going to grant you with that benefit. Each player can only have one research card in play and one focus card in play at a time, so you do want to try and complete them as quickly as you can in order to get more of those out and more benefits granted to you. After that, players can reduce their production track in order to gain more units of different types, and then they can reduce their manpower track in order to deploy those units out in either regions they control or in regions where they have allies. In order to gain allies, you're going to have to reduce your political power track in order to manipulate your position on the political power board. This allows you to improve or degrade your relationship with other countries, which, like I said, can grant you them as allies, but you're also not able to attack any countries until you have completely degraded that relationship, so you might want to spend political power just to degrade that relationship in order to be able to attack them. After all that, players can finally move their units out on the board, and the way that this works is that each player is going to have a few different movement tokens, and you're going to be reusing these each and every round, and you're going to be assigning them face down to any locations where you have units, and then players are going to be taking turns revealing one at a time, and then moving their unit as many spaces as indicated on that token. Each token allows you to move your units a certain amount, but there is also a token that doesn't allow any movement, which you can use to just bluff the other players. Moving your military through any neutral countries will also impact your relationship with them, so if you do that, you're also going to have to move down negatively on their associated political track. But after players have done all of that, you're then going to be resolving the battles for any locations that have opposing units in them, or any locations where a unit is in an opposing country that they are currently at war with. Battle between units begins with each player rolling a base die and then combining it with the number of units they have in that location. The units and the die can contribute to two different attack stats, and players are going to be checking the totals of each of those. You're going to be able to upgrade your die for each of those totals that you have the most of. This means that if you have the most of both, you'll get to upgrade your die twice, and there are a few different dice offered in this game, of course with the more upgraded ones offering more devastating hits. After that initial step, players are either going to have their base die still or an upgraded die, and at that point each player is going to be rolling the die, and the number of hits on that die indicates how many of your opposing units you get to remove from the board. If there are no units there and you're fighting against the country that you're in, then there's going to be printed values that you need to exceed in order to take control of that country. But after all those battles have been resolved, players are going to be drawing an event card for the round and resolving its effects, and then each player will be able to increase their production for the number of factories and regions that they currently control, and then you're going to be scoring victory points for different regions you control, as well as any objectives you're able to complete. The round tracker moves forward until it hits 1945, which is going to be triggering the end of the war, and then players are all going to be adding up their victory points, and the player with the most at that point wins the game. And if you do want to check this one out, I will have it linked down